Have you ever wondered what it would be like to be able to read anyone's personality within seconds? Take a second to think about how such an ability could help you excel in life. When someone is talking to you, only 7% of what they are saying is communicated in words, and the other 93% is conveyed using body language and the tone of your voice. It is important to be able to read a person's body language and facial expressions, but what we're about to discuss goes much deeper than that. Imagine if, after meeting someone, you could gain insight into that person's true character to find out what type of person they really are. We're going to start off with something extremely simple but incredibly effective. By asking a single question, you can get a glimpse of a person's real character and build on his fundamental knowledge. You also have the option to use this knowledge to take a look into your own character and see what it might reveal about you. To get some answers, we must consider a test that was performed by a well-known psychologist. During the test, students were asked a simple question, which was to rate the personalities of several of their acquaintances. Maybe you've heard the saying, "It says more about them than it does about you," when referring to someone who is saying mean things to another person on the internet or in real life. During the study, after students had rated several of their acquaintances, researchers found that the students were more likely to have the personality that reflects the way they rated their friends. For example, if a student rated most of their friends as being happy and kind-hearted, they were more likely to display these personality traits themselves. The same was true for students who rated most of their acquaintances as being negative or manipulative. The conclusion of the study said, the simple tendency to see people negatively indicates a greater likelihood of various personality disorders. Put simply, if you want to know if a person is more likely to display certain personality traits, just ask them what they think of others, or for the best results, pay close attention and observe how they speak about those around them, whether they're talking about close friends, loved ones, or strangers. Now that we've learned an incredibly simple and easy way to gauge a person's personality within seconds, let's dive even deeper into the realm of intuition. With enough practice, you can read someone's personality with your intuition much more effectively than you ever could with words or body language. Your intuition is what your gut feels, and it's not based on what your head is thinking. Intuition is nonverbal information perceived without logic, and some would say it's information that you feel. When you read someone with your intuition, it allows you to see deeper than the obvious and catch a glimpse of their true personality. To practice using intuition, there are 3 things that you must pay attention to. First, honor your gut feelings, especially when you first meet someone. A gut feeling is your body's perceiving information before your brain has time to think, and it's a primal response. You can think of it like your internal truth meter, and it will help you determine if you can trust the person or not. Second, take notice if you get goosebumps, because they're intuitive tingles that tell you when someone inspires or moves you. Goosebumps are also caused when someone says something that really tugs at your character. The third and final way to practice using your intuition is to pay close attention to flashes of insight, because they occur quickly and without warning. If you've ever had an aha moment during a conversation where you felt like you really got a feel for the person's true character, this was your intuition at work. And these flashes of insight happen so quickly that they can get lost in the chatter if you're not paying attention to them. People have always said the eyes are the windows into the soul, and if we're talking about a person's true personality, then there is a lot of truth to this old saying. Like the entire body itself, the eyes transmit powerful electromagnetic energy, and if you take the time to observe a person's eyes, you can see if they're angry, mean, tranquil, or sexy. Or, when you look into their eyes, does it look like they're guarded or hiding? When analyzing a person's eyes, you'll be, once again, using your intuition to read the response. Now that you know how to read someone with a simple question and intuition, let's take a look at some other ways to gauge their personality. An easy way to instantly find out if a person is introverted or extroverted is to observe their response to any question. If you ask a question and the person immediately responds and seems to be thinking out loud, there is a good chance that they have an extroverted personality. If, after asking a question, the person takes a second or two to respond, then there is a good chance that they have an introverted personality type. Once you understand how this works, you can improve your interactions with others. If you're an extrovert talking to an introvert, make sure to give them enough time to respond after you say something. It takes time and effort to practice, but the ability to read subtle cues that most people don't notice will make you extremely good at reading a person's personality. Basic psychology tells us that people tend to move away from uncomfortable experiences in their childhood as they grow older. For example, picture a child who was always one of the weakest kids in school. Maybe he got picked last for the football team or didn't get picked at all. Over time, this person associated a long list of painful experiences or emotions with being weak. Psychology tells us that this person will seek to move away from this pain as they get older. In practice, this means the person is likely to pursue things in life that makes them appear strong and not weak. For example, they might start lifting weights, or they might run for a powerful position within the government or other organization. Once we understand that people do things to move away from pain, we can get a better understanding for why they do the things they do or act certain ways, which can help us to better empathize with them. Let's take a look at another example. Picture a small child named Bill. He grew up on the poor side of town, and since his parents were poor, he rarely was able to have nice things. When Bill went to school and saw wealthier kids with nicer cars, phones, or other materialistic things, he experienced a strong sense of pain. While the other kids enjoyed an amazing lunch, Bill was lucky if he had anything to eat. Imagine if this continued to happen in every area of Bill's life growing up, and how much pain would build up over time. As Bill got older and gained more opportunities, one of his main goals in life, whether he realized it or not, was to move away from the pain of being poor. Once we understand how this works, we gain a better understanding of why people do the things they do, and we'll have more information to decide if we want them to be a part of our life. Let's move on to another insanely powerful trick to read someone's personality. According to science, we can read 90% of a person's personality by simply looking at their shoes. Researchers from the University of Kansas ran tests and found that it's possible to judge about 90% of a person's true personality by observing their shoes. A person's shoes can tell you their emotions, political affiliation, income, gender, and even age. During the study, 63 students were asked to look at photos of 208 different pairs of shoes that belonged to people who volunteered in the study, and the volunteers had filled out personality questionnaires before the study. The students were asked to predict the personality traits of the volunteers based on nothing but their shoes. Although some of the findings were obvious, much of the results were quite unexpected. The study found that expensive shoes belonged to high-income earners, and colorful, flashy shoes belonged to extroverts. Shoes that weren't new but looked spotless belonged to conscientious personalities, and functional or practical shoes belonged to agreeable people. Ankle boots were associated with people who had an aggressive personality, and shoes that looked uncomfortable belonged to people who have a calm personality. Well-kept and brand new shoes belong to people who have attachment anxiety, or people who always worry about the relationships, and less expensive shoes or flip-flops belong to liberal thinkers. Now, it should come as no surprise that boring shoes belong to people who don't care what others think of them, and boring shoes also belong to people who have difficulty forming relationships. Before we end this, imagine if you could gauge a person's personality just by looking at their profile picture on social media. According to a study published by the AAI Digital Library, you can potentially discover a lot about a person by looking at their Twitter or Facebook profile picture. The study found that people who scored higher for neuroticism had simpler photos with less color. These people were more likely to display a blank expression, and in many cases their photos were partially hidden. In case you don't know, neurotic personalities are more likely to be negative over the long term, and they usually suffer from feelings of anxiety, anger, envy, and guilt much more often than others. Now, according to the study, extroverted individuals usually had a profile picture with other people in the picture, and the images were more colorful and showed the person smiling widely at the camera. The people who had the best looking profile pictures were most likely to be open to experience, and they had pictures with higher contrast and sharper images. These photos also displayed the person's face taking up more of the photo. The study even found that highly agreeable people usually post bad pictures of themselves, but they're usually smiling and the pictures look lively and bright. The ability to quickly read a person's true personality or inner character gives us a massive advantage over others who lack this ability, and it is an ability that you can use to improve every area of your life. You might not be good at first, but with enough practice around other people, you'll get good enough to read people quickly and effectively, and depending on this situation, this ability could win you more money at the poker table, or it might even save your life. People always wonder how effective body language is for reading people. And as it turns out, your ability to read someone accurately is based almost exclusively on how well you can read body language. Just as much as you can read others by paying attention to their nonverbal cues, they can also read you. When someone sees you from a distance, such as when you walk into a room, they are building an impression of who you are as a person. Humans are hardwired to read nonverbal cues even more than the words that come out of your mouth. Various studies have been used to determine the importance of reading body language, and although the percentages can vary, the truth is that 90% of communication is nonverbal. A person's gestures, body movements, and postures represent about 50% of communication. Another 40% of body language is based on your voice, which is the tone and frequency of your words. Since about 90% of communication is nonverbal, the ability to read body language might as well be called mind reading. Once you know how to read anyone, you can find out what's going on inside of their head with an accuracy level of over 90%. You have to understand that the human body is an extension of the mind. Most people forget that it's the mind that's in control of the body. A person's gestures, postures, body movements, and voice tonality are all direct reflections of what's happening inside of their mind. When a person confidently walks into a room, your subconscious mind picks up on the strong body movements, and the person's movements directly reflect what he or she is experiencing in the mind. A huge advantage of being able to read anyone is the ability to avoid dishonest people, imposters, and liars. As you begin to master body language, you'll be able to alter your own body movements and voice tonality in ways that allow you to portray a specific impression. The neat thing about body language is that 99% of people have no idea they're constantly sending hidden signals out into the world, which you will be able to pick up on. Today, the ability to read nonverbal communication is so important that it's used for negotiations, sales, investigations, and even politics. The good news is that reading body language is easy, but you have to know what to look for, and you must practice it often. The first and arguably one of the most important parts of nonverbal communication is the body language of confidence. This also happens to be one of the easiest states to read. When reading anyone, you'll find that there are several key gestures that tell you a person is feeling confident. And if a person shows these gestures, it doesn't necessarily mean they're always a confident person, but it shows that they're feeling confident at the time of the observation. The first gesture is hands behind the back, and it should be accompanied by other signs of confidence, such as the chin being up, shoulders back, and chest out. You might notice someone taking this posture when they feel confident during a conversation or a particular situation. If you ever visit a car dealership, you might notice the salesman taking this posture frequently. The second gesture that indicates a state of confidence is fingertips touching. When a person touches his fingertips together, he might be indicating that he feels confident about what the other person is saying or what he is saying to the other person. The third gesture that shows confidence is clasping the hands in front of the stomach, and you can see government officials and presidents doing this all the time. Now, the fourth gesture is arguably the most powerful, and it's called the superiority position. A person who feels overconfident or superior is likely to take this position. When taking the superiority position, a person will sit back with his fingers interlaced behind his head and place one leg over the other. For example, someone might take this position after they have just aced a test or completed some other major accomplishment. Now, the fifth gesture that indicates a state of confidence is called the half superiority position, and this position is commonly taken by an individual who feels confident but doesn't feel extremely superior. The half superiority position involves placing one leg over the other so that it is parallel to the floor. This is actually the way that many women sit, and if you ever see a beautiful, confident woman on a talk show, this is most likely how she will sit. Aside from the 5 major confidence gestures, there are several additional gestures to be aware of when reading people. People who feel confident tend to stand and sit upright with no hunching. On the flip side, people who lack confidence tend to look like Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Another confident gesture is keeping both legs on the floor while standing. When we are not consciously thinking about it, our subconscious mind is mostly responsible for controlling our walking style, and a gesture that conveys confidence is wide steps. When a person takes wide steps, it can indicate that he or she is not afraid of new situations. A confident person also doesn't panic after making a mistake because he understands that it's completely normal for humans to make mistakes. To read anyone, you need to understand confidence gestures, and when a person is feeling confident, they will rarely fidget or make clumsy movements. It is important to know that people who feel anxious or unsure of a situation will fidget or rapidly look around. People who feel confident tend to seem more relaxed, calmer, and uninhibited. We've all been around someone who conveys that calm, confident vibe, and if you need an example, go watch any 007 movie with Pierce Brosnan in it and you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. A person's words can also convey confidence, and when someone feels confident, they tend to make fewer speech mistakes. Now, when someone feels anxious or afraid, such as in a new social situation, their brain becomes occupied with the anxious emotions and doesn't devote enough resources to speech, which makes it difficult to put sentences together. We've all seen those movies where the nerd guy approaches the hot girl and he begins stuttering and can't seem to put a single sentence together. For a confident person, it's the exact opposite. Since the brain is calm, collected, and confident, sentences flow naturally and coherently. When reading someone, you'll notice one of the major signs of confidence is eye contact, and a confident person will look you in your eyes most of the time. On the flip side, a lack of confidence causes a person to constantly break eye contact and look at other things, especially when they're the one talking. When reading the body language of confidence, you'll notice open gestures. Someone who feels confident typically displays open gestures. Some examples of closed gestures are crossing the legs and folding the arms. In most situations, arm folding should be viewed as a sign of discomfort. When reading people, you'll find that a confident person doesn't look for silent permission to do whatever it is he or she is going to do. For example, imagine you're in the grocery store and an employee is stocking the fresh tomatoes, and you need to grab a tomato for a recipe. A person who lacks confidence will likely stand there and wait for the employee to move, or wait for the employee to give him approval to grab the tomato, even when there is no need for the approval. Put simply, confident people usually don't look at others for approval before taking an action. To gain the ability to read anyone, you must understand the gestures that convey confidence. As you begin to master recognizing and practicing these gestures, you can make yourself appear more attractive and confident, even if you don't actually feel confident on the inside. Imagine how useful confident body language would be during sales negotiations. It could be the difference between getting ripped off or saving thousands of dollars on a new car. Over 90% of the impression people form of you is based on your body language, and once you understand how it works, you can read anyone with an accuracy level exceeding 90%. The ability to read and interpret body language is like being able to read minds. The human body is equipped with the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. That little voice that you constantly hear in your head throughout the day is your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind doesn't talk to you like your conscious mind, but it's always doing what it was designed to do. Every second, it takes an incomprehensible amount of information from your senses and decodes it into the world that you see around you. Even though you're almost never aware of it, your subconscious mind is the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Your subconscious mind is like the puppeteer behind the curtain, pulling the strings and controlling most of everything you do. Even most of your decisions are made on the subconscious level. What most people don't realize is that their body language is also controlled by the subconscious, so when someone feels shy or scared, these feelings are unconsciously transmitted through their body language. Consider the body language of defensiveness, shyness, and unease. These feelings are quite common and frequently displayed when a person is entering an environment that they're not familiar with, such as a party. The next time you're out and about, find someone who is standing alone or in an area where they don't know anybody. When a person is feeling uncomfortable or shy around people they don't know, they'll take what is called a defensive position. This body language involves folding the arms, and it might be accompanied by crossing of the legs if the person is feeling especially uncomfortable. Defensive body language is very common because people are always entering situations where they're uncomfortable or unfamiliar with their surroundings. On the subconscious level, when you enter an area that is unfamiliar, or you're around many people that you don't know, your subconscious mind will cause you to fold your arms and possibly your legs because it's trying to defend you from potential threats. A person might also display defensive body language after witnessing an accident or something they'd prefer to avoid. You might also display defensive body language when someone says something offensive to you. People who lack confidence and people who are shy will display this body language even more than most people because they're constantly uncomfortable with their surroundings. A quick tip for job interviews: to make yourself seem more appealing and inviting, don't take a defensive position during the interview. If you want the ability to read anyone, you must also understand the body language of boredom. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been talking to someone and right when you bring up something they're not interested in, they start to drop eye contact and begin to fiddle with their fingers or nearby objects? They may also move their foot up and down repeatedly in a nervous kind of way. These are the signs of boredom. For practice, start talking to your girlfriend about how much horsepower your new turbo produces and watch how fast she starts displaying the body language of boredom. Honestly though, if you're talking to someone and they display signs of boredom, don't take that to mean that you're a boring person. All it means is that the person isn't really interested in what you're talking to them about, so it's a great time to change the subject or make them laugh. When reading someone, you should never make a conclusion off of a single sign. It is always best to wait until the person displays the gesture more than once, and for greater accuracy, the person should display more than one gesture. To properly read anyone, it is important to understand the body language of anxiousness, which is all too common in today's fast-paced world. One of the best places to practice your ability to spot anxious body language is at the doctor's or the dentist's office. As people wait to be called back for their appointments, they are likely to display several signs of anxiousness. When trying to determine if someone is anxious, you need to look for multiple signs. Some common body language cues that could indicate anxiousness are sweating, tapping the fingers, tapping the heels, fidgeting, nail biting, and whistling. The person might also start playing with their keys, phone, or nearby objects. If you notice a person exhibiting 3 or more of these signs, there is a good chance that they're anxious. Motor functions and speech can also be negatively affected by anxiousness. Since anxiousness steals away some of your brain's resources, you might find it harder to get the right words out or perform smooth actions while you're anxious. An anxious state of mind is the main reason why the nervous guy accidentally knocks over the drink while on a date at a restaurant. In fact, our bodies are hardwired to tighten and stand still when we perceive a threat. The opposite of anxiety is calmness, and confident people rarely fidget or show signs of anxiousness. The next time you go to the store, you'll notice at least a few people with their hands in their pocket. Have you ever seen this and wondered what it meant? I know just the other day I went to the store when I was feeling very unconfident about the clothes I was wearing. Take a guess what I did. Yep, I put my hands in my pocket. When a person is unsatisfied with their self-image, they'll put their hands in their pocket. And this happens all the time when we're stuck wearing an ugly combination of clothes and must go out in public. All those guys walking around the store with their hands in their pocket, now you know why they're doing it. Some people might be unsatisfied with their clothes, or it might be deeper than that, and they're unsatisfied with the way their body looks. If we truly break down why this happens, we can see that the subconscious mind believes that by putting our hands in our pockets, we're able to hide from or avoid the situation. A person might also put his hands in his pockets because he is lying or because he has something to hide. In the case of lying, the hands go into the pockets to hide from or avoid the question or situation. Someone who always has their hands in their pockets while walking or standing still might lack self-confidence, and the hands are always in the pockets because he constantly feels uncomfortable around others. However, the biggest mistake that you can make when trying to read anyone is making an assumption based off of a single gesture. For example, a person might have his hands in his pockets because they're cold. A person who walks with his head down, hunched over, and with his hands in his pockets is much more likely to lack self-confidence than someone who is standing outside in the cold with his hands inside of his pockets. As is always the case with life, context is key, and to improve your results, you must always take into account the bigger picture of the situation. For all the guys watching, which is 79% of you, have you ever wondered what it means when a girl flips her hair? You see girls do this all the time, and your subconscious mind or intuition picks up on it. When it comes to the body language of attraction, you won't find a better telltale sign than the hair flip. As it turns out, the hair flip can be a direct sign that a girl is interested in you, but to read this gesture correctly, you need more information. First, it is very important to understand the difference between a girl touching her hair and a girl flipping her hair. A girl can play with or touch her hair and have zero attraction towards you. Once you completely understand the hair flipping move, you'll be in a much better position to determine if she's attracted to you or not. During the flip, the girl will raise one or both of her hands, but usually one hand, and she will move her fingers through her hair in a horizontal movement, starting from just above the eyebrows. As her hand moves through her hair, it might reach as far back as behind the ears. Now, to understand why this signals attraction, we need to understand the psychology behind the movement. At the subconscious level, the girl performs the hair flip because she's attracted to the man, which causes her to reveal the skin on her neck. The neat thing about the hair flip is that it occurs completely on the subconscious level, so the girl will never realize she's doing it, but you will. However, some girls know about this signal and actually use it to purposefully show attraction. Another really cool thing about the hair flip is that it's what we would call a standalone sign in body language, which means that it doesn't require other signs to be present for an accurate reading. However, You should always make sure the sign was directed at you and not someone else. When performing the hair flip, the girl doesn't even have to be looking at you. For example, she might do it as you walk by her. If attraction is present, the girl is likely to hair flip and reveal skin on the side of her body that is closest to you. You should also note that a lack of a hair flip doesn't mean a lack of attraction, since all girls show attraction in different ways. The hair flip usually occurs after a girl's attraction for you has passed a certain threshold. The neat thing about the hair flip is that it can even occur from a distance. The ability to read anyone is an awesome skill to have, and it's a lot of fun picking up on unconscious signals that people don't even know they're broadcasting. As you get better at reading people, you should find that your personal relationships improve, and you'll even be able to alter your own body language in certain situations to make sure you're sending the right signals. With that said, until next time, thanks for watching.